Last week when I was shopping at the supermarket, I came across a little plastic packet of rosemary and it was selling for $3.99. And so I thought, of all the plants, rosemary is one of the easiest to grow. And so I'm going to dedicate this episode to tips on how to grow rosemary and some interesting things that you can do with the plant to save you dollars and to save the planet from one less plastic container. If you're looking for a tough, low-maintenance, drought-resistant, frost-tolerant plant for a sunny position, I would highly recommend rosemary. Hello, I'm Robin and I've been filming my small edible garden over the last year. Rosemary is the lowest maintenance plant that I have in the garden. It actually, as a plant, thrives and tastes better on neglect. And often if you find an abandoned vegetable patch or backyard, the sole survivor will be rosemary. Think Mediterranean for the optimum conditions for growing rosemary. Full sun, a soil that's not too rich and not too much water. I do very little to my rosemary aside from cut it back off the path when it gets a bit big and cut and cook. Although I have seen some beautiful low rosemary hedges cut to look as neat as a box hedge, and in a container, if you get the prostrate variety, I've seen some beautiful cascading rosemary down the side of the pot with some other plants. Yeah, it's a beautiful plant, and if you're time poor, it can be a wonderful plant to have in your garden. Rosemary takes to pruning very well, and constant tip pruning is the best way to keep your plant nice and tight and bushy. So keep eating it. One tip though, if you're trying to reduce the overall size of your plant, don't go down to more than about a quarter of the plant and avoid cutting into the bare wood part of the branch because it usually doesn't grow back from that part. It grows really well in a vegetable patch as well, and it's a good companion to the sage plant, brassicas, carrots and beans. But it's also a good insect attracting plant. And in that way, it brings in pollinators for your fruit trees and your vegetables. And it also brings some diversity into your garden. Animals are attracted to not only the flowers, but also possibly the insects that the plant brings in. We were really excited to discover pardalots nesting in an abandoned plant barrel last week. Little highly coloured Australian native birds. And these birds live in little mud nest holes, but they feed on insects, a bit of biological control, and perhaps the rosemary added to that. Rosemary does fairly well in most climates, except perhaps areas of high humidity. This is a sunny, dry climate that goes down to about -7 in winter, some heavy frosts. In fact, it's early spring, and last week we had a -6.9, right when our blossoms are opening for our fruit trees. But in any case, it's the conditions of the southern highlands of Australia. So what's the best way to acquire rosemary? Well, the trip to the nursery is always fun, and you can buy very large plants in pots or small seed tray size plants. You can also grow rosemary by seed, but it's a slow process. When choosing your potted rosemary plant, there are some things to consider. I don't always notice the difference though in the flavour between the different varieties. My variety is called Tuscan Blue, and it is often advertised as the chef's choice. And so who knows, I might have a very tasty variety on my hands here, but I often think it's about the treatment of the plant and its conditions that really lead to the flavour. However, some leaves, rosemary leaves, are bigger and plumper than others, so that might be something to consider. They're also the shape of the plant. So as I mentioned earlier, prostrate varieties can hang over walls and pots, or you can go for an upright variety. And there's also different colours in flowers. So the colour range can go from a white through to pinks, mauves, pale blues and dark blues. So there are some things to consider, and they grow very easily by cutting if you know somebody with a plant or you're intending to propagate your own. Pick a stem without flowers. Take a cutting of about 10 centimetres and take off the leaves of the stalk, maybe about a third to halfway through, and then place the stalk into some good soil, keep it watered, and usually it's a very high success rate for this plant. Don't be fooled by rosemary cuttings though. At times you think the plant has taken root, but in fact the rosemary plant holds onto its colour for a very long time. And so I guess you can be fooled by cuttings that seem to have taken root, but in fact are just sitting there holding onto their colour. Rosemary is legendary for holding onto its colour. It is why the plant is associated with memory, remembrance, funerals, weddings, commemoration of those that have fallen during war. This vase, for example, is well over a week old, and it doesn't look like it's losing any of its colour soon, and therefore I guess rosemary makes an excellent cut flower. Since about the 1500s, it's said that if you put a sprig of rosemary under your pillow, you will have sweet dreams and ward off bad nightmares. But I'm going to use the sprig to make lamb skewers. Because the branches are edible as well as the leaves, I'm going to use the branches to make skewers. Rosemary and lamb are the obvious pairing, and they go hand in glove. Well, the lamb ended up absolutely delicious, and that was the tester that I sampled. I'm going to be serving that at a very special birthday coming up. Another traditional pairing for rosemary is with orange. You can also eat the petals of the rosemary flower, and it can be nice in salad. Possibly after lamb, the most famous pairing of rosemary is with baked vegetables. A little bit of salt and some olive oil and rosemary lightly sprinkled on top, and it is absolutely divine. Well, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all the subscriptions and lovely comments, and I hope to see you in the next episode if Rosemary's babies don't get me first.